Jack Ashley opened the car door and stepped out into the street. He walked around to the back of the car and lifted the lid that Chris had opened automatically. He took hold of his suitcase handle and pulled it out onto the road. He closed the lid and then walked back to the car door. Chris leant forward and indicated the building at the side of the road. "There you are, Jack, and number 12, Rue de Château. The apartment is on the first floor." Jack turned around and looked up at the first floor of the building. It looked fine, and after all, he was only going to be here for 6 months. It was in the center of town, and now all he had to do was find his way around the city. Without a car, he was going to have to rely on public transport. Thankfully, he had seen tram lines on the main road. All he had to do was to learn how to use a tram. As he'd never been on a tram before, this was going to be an interesting experience. "Just ring the doorbell," called Chris after him from the car. "The concierge will show you the apartment. Also, she speaks English, so you'll be okay. She will make sure that you are comfortable," said Chris, leaning over and pointing at the building. Jack closed the car door and, pulling his suitcase behind him, he reached the door and pushed the doorbell. For a few moments he stood outside the door. It was red and looked old. He pressed the button again. Instead, he could hear movement now. The door opened and a middle-aged woman stood there looking at him. "Oui," she said. Chris leaned over and pulled a smartphone out of the dashboard alcove in front of him. He switched it on and selected one of the apps. The screen cleared and a text box appeared asking for his password. He entered the password and the screen moved on. He was now onto a police website and there was a variety of options. He chose Les Maisons. A list of properties appeared on his screen. He selected Rue de Château 12. The apartment was owned by the Belgian security system, and the landlady herself was a retired police officer. She was happy to cooperate with the department, as she was paid extra above her usual pension to take care of her guests. Nothing escaped her. She was very reliable and made a regular report to the department. She was also trained in firearms if required, but her eyesight was slowly failing with age and her aim was becoming unreliable. The screen on the smartphone then asked him for a 4-digit PIN code. He entered the code for that property. The screen then gave him a list of options for that address. La télé, television, l'internet, the internet, le téléphone, the telephone, les caméras video, video cameras, les microphones sonores, the sound microphones, GSM. GSM. Yes, that's what he wanted the most. Jack's telephone GSM number. Each one was followed by a highlighted box. The first was suivant. The second, annulé. Moving his finger down the screen, he pressed the suivant button for each option. The screen paused for a few seconds as it linked to the different options. One by one, each option changed to connecté. When the final option became connected, Chris smiled to himself. He did love modern technology. Once he was connected, he pressed the option for the video cameras and a block of 4 small screens appeared on his smartphone. On the lounge camera, he could see Jack and the landlady walking into the room. Another camera showed the bedroom, another the kitchen, and another the bathroom. He pressed the option for the microphones located around the apartment, and he could clearly hear now what Jack and the landlady were talking about. With the headphones connected to his phone, he could really quite clearly hear what was being said. He could also record the conversations for further use if he needed to. From now on, Chris would be able to watch Jack, record any phone calls he made, and even see what TV programs he was watching. There were a number of adult channels available on the TV package. It would be interesting to see what kind of pornography the inspector preferred. That would tell him a lot about this British policeman's likes and desires. Chris closed the app and put the smartphone away. He could safely leave that until later. He could even sit at home and watch Jack from every angle of the apartment. There would be nothing that he wouldn't know. Even if Jack used his GSM anywhere in Brussels, Chris would be alerted on his own phone and he would be able to listen to everything that Jack discussed. With this app, he could even activate Jack's camera on his phone and see what he saw. Who was he talking to? Where was he? Who did he know? That could also be important. Chris inserted the car key into the ignition and started the car. With a quick look behind him to check that the street was clear, he put the car into gear and pulled out. He was heading back to his office in the centre of Brussels. He didn't have to concern himself with Jack for the rest of the day. He would be alerted if Jack decided to go on a walk around the city. He could even track where Jack was by using the GPS system that tracked his GSM. There was nowhere he could go without Chris knowing about it. No one he could talk to without the conversation being recorded. Jack Ashley couldn't even go to the toilet without Chris knowing about it.